In this video, I am going to show you the closures in Swift programming language. Thank you so much for being here. Closures are self-contained block of functionality that can be passed around and used in your code. Closures are similar to blocks in C and Objective-C. The global functions and nested functions are special cases of closures. The global functions are closures that have a name and do not capture any values. Here the capturing values means it's possible for a closure to use constants or variable within its surrounding context. For example, the parameter values. We can check this concept a bit later. The nested functions are closures that have a name and can capture values from their enclosing function. The closure expressions are unnamed closures written in a lightweight syntax that can capture values from their surrounding context. So here we are going to check the closure expressions. The closure expressions are way to write inline closures in a brief focused syntax. Closure expressions provide several syntax optimizations for writing closures in a shorthand form without loss of the clarity or intent. Let us check with some examples. Normally in Swift there is a method for sorting. It's known as sorted, for sorting an array of something. That method sorts an array of values of a known type based on the output of a sorting closure that you provide. Names dot sorted. See this, there is an method that expects a closure as a parameter. Okay, we can use that. So we need to get a function with a closure with parameters having two string values and that will return a boolean value. So we can define that function here. See, we have an array with reversed order. So in this method, this is rather a long-winded way to write, that is essentially a single expression value. We only need this value, right? In this example, it would be preferable to write the sorting closure inline using the closure expression syntax. So we can check what is the closure expression syntax. It look like this. We have an curly braces and we have the parameters, then a return value, so return type, then in keyword, then the statements goes here. Okay, this is the closure expression syntax. Here the parameters can have the inode parameters, but that can have a default value, and so the variadic parameters can be used here. Tuples can be used as parameter types and return types, no problem. So in the above example, we can check how we can use the closure expression syntax instead of this name, this function, this whole function. Okay, let's check how we can do with the closure expression syntax. So here first name is equal to names dot sorted by the curly braces, and the parameters goes here inside the parenthesis, we have an s1 string, then this to another string. After that we have the return type, that is boolean, and in. Okay, after that in after that we have the statements. What is that? We are going to use the return s1 is greater than s2. Okay, so this much of code we have reduced to a single line. Okay, this is the benefit of using closure expression syntax. We can check is the same as the method. I'm going to comment that all. See, we have the correct answer. So this is better. We can delete that one. Okay, here the in keyword indicates that the body of the closure begins. So now the argument, right? The argument is an inline closure. Okay, we can also do some optimization in this code. For example, here we used string types, right? So it can infer the type of parameters and type of values it returns. So we can just remove the type. So it will do it for us, and just remove that. We got the same results. Okay, so in this way we can remove the parameter type, also the return type. Okay, next thing is we can also optimize this code by removing this return. That means implicit return from single expression closures. So we can avoid the return. This it will automatically return the value. So the same result. Even we can shorthand this expression by using the shorthand argument names. So result names is equal to names dot sorted by. Okay, so we are going to optimize this one, and SIG automatically provides shorthand argument names to inline closure that will be in the form of $0, $1, $2, etc. So we can use for S1 $0 and $1. Okay, this is the shorthand form. So we got the same answer. This is also can be optimized. SIP's string type defines its string specific implementation of the greater than operator as a method that has two parameters of type string and returns a value of type boolean. So we can use this like names dot sorted by we just need to put greater than. So using this operator method of string type, we can just use that symbol only. These are the methods of using the closure expression syntax. See, first we have used the full form, then we avoided the parameter and return types here, then we avoided the return, like this shift will automatically return the value. Then using the shorthand form, we use dollar values. Then using the operator method of string, we use just the get them symbol. This is all about the closure expressions. Next is the trailing closures. If you need to pass a closure expression to a function as the function's final argument and the closure expression is long, it can be useful to write it as a trailing closure. The trailing closure is written after the function calls parenthesis. In trailing closure syntax, don't write the argument label for closure as part of the function call. We can use the trailing closure to call the function. This is the way of using trailing closure. Just called without the argument, and it is called after the calls parenthesis. Okay, so we just use this one. It's a trailing closure. So this everything's okay. In this example, we can also avoid this parenthesis. No need for the parenthesis if trailing closure is the only one argument. You just remove that. See how simple is with the trailing closure. Even though the trailing closures are useful when the closure is sufficiently long and not possible to write it inline on a single line. So we are going to map the digits with string. Okay, so this is an example with a trailing closure that's having a lot of code. So these are the expressions that is going after the function parenthesis. Okay, next is the capturing values. A closure can capture constants and variables from the surrounding context in which it is defined. The closure can then refer to and modify the values of those constants and variables from within its body, even if the original scope of that defined the constants and variables no longer exist. Instead, the simplest form of a closure that can capture values is a nested function written within the body of another function. A nested function can capture any of its outer function's arguments and can also capture any constants or variables defined within the outer function. So it will be 10. Okay, I'm going to use two more times. So it's executed to 3 times, the value will be 30. So in the inner function have the access to the running total and the amount. So it is capturing the parameter value amount and the variable or constant specified inside the function, but is outside the scope of the incrementer. This is how it's capturing values. Be 40. So it does not affect the variable captured by the increment by 7. And the closures are a reference type. In this example, the increment by 7 and the increment by 10 are constants, right? But the closure these constants referred to are still able to increment the running total variable that they have captured. This is because the functions and closures are reference types. Whenever you assign a function or a closure to a constant or a variable, you are actually setting that constant or variable to be a reference to the function or closure. This also means that if you assign a closure to two different constants or variable, both of these constants or variables are for the same closure. Let us create another variable to amassing the same value as increment by time. Okay, now print increment by 20. See, the value will be 50 and 60. So even we assigned the increment by 10 to a new constant, the closure that both are referred won't change, they both the same, so that we got the answers 50 and 60. This is because the closures are reference type. Okay. Next is the escaping closures. A closure is said to escape a function when a closure is passed as an argument to the function but is called after the function returns. When you declare a function that takes a closure as one of its parameters, you can write escape, the @escape keyword before the parameter's name to indicate that the closure is allowed to escape. One way that a closure can escape is by being stored in a variable that is defined outside the function. As an example, many functions that start an asynchronous operation takes a closure argument as a completion handler. The function returns after it starts the operation, but the closure isn't called until the operation is completed. So the closure need to be escaped to be called later. Let distance is equal to some class dot do something print dot x. What we'll get? We got 200. So in this class, the function, the method was called, and the value is changed to 100, and again this function, the value of x becomes 200. So we got 200. So we also need to check anything inside that completion handlers. Completion handlers dot first. That will be closure, right? We are appending the closure inside this array, so we need to call that. And going to print instance dot x. The value will be 100. Value optional type, so we need to unwrap it. That the value will be 100. Okay, this is how we can use the escaping. Okay, next is the auto closures. An auto closure is a closure that is automatically created to wrap an expression that is being passed as an argument to a function. It does not take any arguments, and when it is called, it returns the value of the expression that's wrapped inside of it. This syntactic convenience lets you omit the braces around the function's parameters by writing a normal expression instead of a explicit closure. An auto closure lets you delay evaluation because the code inside is not run until you call that function closure. Delaying evaluation is useful for code that has side effects or is computationally expensive because it lets you control when that code is evaluated. Let us see how the closure delays evaluation. We have an array. So we have an closure that will remove an array, remove an element from an array. Will be 5 also. So then auto closure lets you delay evaluation because the code inside is not run until you call the closure. You get the same behavior of this delayed evaluation when you pass a closure as an argument to a function. So this function takes an explicit closure that returns an character from this array. Next we are going to check the another version of this function which takes advantage of the the auto closure. We go the function serve2. I'm going to call the function serve with auto closure. See the difference here. In this serve we have an explicit closure type, but in this new function with auto closure the argument is just an character, right? We go to array, I don't know what, 0. See this. Now you can call the function as if it took a string argument instead of a closure. The argument is automatically converted to a closure because the character provider's type is marked with auto closure attribute. Okay. This is the things about the auto closure. If you want an auto closure that is allowed to escape, use both the auto closure and escaping attributes. Let's take a small example. We're going to loop this character provider. So in providers, we just call that closure. Print provider. You see how we will get A and B. See this. So this is a way of using both the escaping and auto closures. This is it all about the closures. We'll see you in the next video and thank you. Bye.